Hello, you're welcome back again to this YouTube channel, and if you're visiting this YouTube channel for the very first time, you're highly welcome. Please do well to hit the subscribe button and also click on the notification bell to be notified whenever I drop a new video. So in this video we'll be doing two things. One, we'll be making this beautiful blouse. I got inspiration from Pinterest, and this blouse can be rocked on trousers, leggings, and even skirts. Two, we'll be learning another method of drafting a princess dart. Yes, I've taught on several methods on how to draft a princess dart, so it's for you to pick the method that is comfortable with you, and let's dive right in, baby. Now, when it comes to some styles, you need to draft the basic bodice first, because before you can add some tweaks here and there and create the actual style. So for this particular blouse, the first step is drafting out the basic bodice before we start doing the lichi, serering. So if you do not know how to draft the basic bodice, then you need to go back and learn how to draft that, because I've already done a detailed video on how to draft the basic bodice. And although we're going to draft the basic bodice first, but it's going to be a bit fast, so if you still do not know how to draft the basic bodice, then it might confuse you. So please go ahead and watch it and come join us. And if you already know how to draft the basic bodice, then let's kickstart. So the very first step is to go ahead and mark 1 inch from the starting of your paper, which is going to serve as the top line or the starting line. So that's what I'm doing, and after doing that, I'll just bring in my rule and rule this to get a straight line like this. Now after doing this, the next step is to mark out the shoulder measurement here after dividing it by 2, and then from this shoulder measurement you come down and mark your armhole depth. To get your armhole depth, divide your round bust measurement by 6 plus 1.5 to get the armhole depth. So I'll go ahead and connect this armhole depth to the shoulder measurement like this. Once this is done, the next step is to mark out the normal neckline and neck width. Then afterwards, you can change it to the neckline you want for the blouse. So for this, I'm working with a neckline and neck width of 3.41. That is after dividing the round bust by 12. That is how you get the normal regular neckline for an individual. So I went ahead to mark 3.45 for the neck width and 3.45 for the neck depth. So that is just the normal, regular neckline, which I will later change as the spirit leads, depending on the kind of neckline that I want. But for now, we are drafting the basic bodice. So now that this is done, the next step is to come down by 1 inch from the shoulder point here to get that shoulder slope or shoulder slant. So I'll go ahead and connect this 1 inch back to the neckline like this to get the shoulder slant. Next step, to get the armhole curve, we have to mark out the chest line, and to do that, you divide your round bust measurement by 4 and mark it out there. And I went ahead to bring in my curve rule to draw this straight down like this. And this is the chest line. Next step is to get the midpoints from this 1 inch I came down with to the armhole depth. So you go ahead and place your tape like this and just fold your tape over like this to get the midpoint, or you divide whatever you get from this point to this point by 2 and mark it out like this. Next, I'll come in by 0.75 from this midpoint, and I'll connect these 3 points together like so. So for a very detailed video on how to draft your basic bodice, I'll drop the link to that video on the description box, so you go ahead and watch it, and this will be very easy for you to understand. So next, I'll mark out the bust point, which is from the shoulder to the nipple. So for this, the shoulder to the nipple is 11 inches, which I've marked out. And I went ahead to bring in the rule to connect this dot to get a straight line like this. So this line is the bust point line or the shoulder to nipple line. Now that this is done, the next step is to mark out the front waist length. So go ahead and measure your front waist length and mark it out, or measure from your shoulder to your navel and subtract 2, and that will be your front waist length. So after marking out the front waist length, I went ahead to connect this dot to get a straight line like this, and this is the front waist length. Next step is to go ahead and mark out the hip line or hip depth. So for this, the hip line I'm working with is 8 inches. So I've marked 8 inches from the waistline. So for hip line or hip depth, what I normally do is mark 7 inches for a very short person, 8 inches for an average height, 9 inches for someone who is tall, and 10 inches for someone who is extremely tall, who is very, very tall, you understand? So for some, they just make use of 8, 9, 10. So just tell me what you make use of. Next, I'm marking the nipple to nipple measurement after dividing it by 2. So for me, I have 4. The nipple to nipple measurement I'm working with is 8. 8 divided by 2 gives me 4, which I've marked out on my bust point line, the front waistline, and also on the hip line. And I'm connecting these to get this dot line, which is the straight line. Next step is to go ahead and come in and out by half an inch on both sides of the front waist length like this, and then come up by 2 inches from the hip line and come down by 1 inch from the bust point line. And I'll go ahead and connect all of this together like this, as you can see. So this dot I'm creating right now is the normal regular dot. Yes, so that's what we're doing right now. Remember, in quotes, we are drafting out the basic bodies. So if you already know how to draft out the basic bodies, this should be no new thing to you. Next step is to mark out the round bodice measurement after dividing it by 4. So for the waist, you divide your round waist by 4 and add this 1 inch for the dart intake, then you mark it out. So the round waist measurement after divided by 4 for me is 8.6, then plus 1 inch for the dart intake is 9.6, which I marked out on the waist, and I've connected this to the chest line. Then on the hip, you divide your round hip measurement by 4 and mark it out. So I've marked this out as well, and then I'll connect this to the waist like this as well. So now that I've connected this, at this point you can see that the basic bodice is almost ready. Next is to mark out the bust dart. So to get your bust dart, subtract your back waist length from the front waist length, and then whatever you get, mark it on the side. So for me, I have 3.5, which I've marked out on the side, and I will connect this to the bust point here like this. So I'll connect it to the bust point, and this is the bust dart. So next is to true to make sure that the sides are equal. So I'll go ahead and pinch this part of the bust dart and then take it to meet up with the bust point line like this, as you can see. So you make sure you arrange your paper carefully, just the way I am doing. Please just watch. So the reason for doing this is, as you can see, the sides are not equal, and if you tend to cut out your pattern without doing this, the sides on your fabric are not going to be equal. So you just have to do this on your pattern to have equal sides. So you go ahead and connect this back to the chest line, and then you bring your tracing wheel, or if you don't have a tracing wheel, you can use a pen that is no longer writing to trace this like this, as you can see. So this is called truing or true. So you just go ahead and trace, and then when you open it, you're going to see a marking, and you go ahead and just follow the markings that the tracing wheel traced out on your pattern. So I'm just following the markings of the tracing wheel, and this is what I have. So the bust dart has been completed. So as at this point, the basic bodice of my front pattern is ready. So it's time to start adding the little tweaks. So the first thing in creating that style is we have to create the princess that. Yeah, so I'm using the red pen for this, so you see the little things we did to this basic bodice to get the style that we're about to create. So the first step is creating the princess that. And when it comes to creating any bustier darts, for example, your shoulder dart, the princess dart, you need the under bust. Yes, it's very important. You need the under bust when it comes to making a bustier. So I've gone ahead to mark from the shoulder to the under bust. That is what I marked out, which was 15 inches. And I'm going ahead to rule the dots to get a straight line to get the under bust line. I hope you do understand this explanation. Now that this is done, the next step that I will do now is to mark out the blouse length. That is how long I want this blouse to be. So for this, you have to take the measurement. You have to take the measurement on your client and house them where do they desire the blouse to stop, where do they want their blouse to stop. So they'll tell you where they would like it to stop and you mark it out. So for me, I'm making use of 24 inches for this, so it can be 25, 26 inches depending on where the client wants the blouse to stop at. So this is the blouse length line. And when it comes to drafting out your princess dart bustier, it can start from anywhere on your armhole, any point on your armhole, it can start from there. So for me, I want it to start at the midpoint here. So I'll go ahead and connect from this midpoint of the armhole to the bust point like this. So wherever you want it to start from on your armhole, you go ahead and connect it to the bust point like this. And after connecting it to the bust point, you go ahead and come down by 1 inch from the original line. You don't understand? So just watch, please. You have to pay close attention now. So from this original point, I'm coming down by 1 inch on the armhole like this. This is just to create some form of, princess dart tightening, you get. So I'm going to connect this 1 inch back to the bust point that's like this. So wherever point you want your princess dart to start from on your armhole, you have to follow this same process. And for every type of bustiers, there must be an underbust tightening, and to do that, you have to come in by half an inch from the dart leg on the underbust line like this, and also go out by half an inch from the dart leg. Take notes, I'm not marking it from the dart line, I'm marking it from the dart leg like this. And then I'll go ahead and connect this back to the dart legs of the waistline like this, of the front waistline like this. So according to the term underbust tightening, meaning this tightening is done on the underbust line. So now that we have this tightening here, I'll go ahead and connect this tightening back to the bust points like this, using the curve part of my curve rule, because I do not want any form of pointiness at the bust point. That's why I'm not using the straight rule. So that's why I'm using the curved point. Now, to be able to curve the other side, I need to close the bust dart. To be able to curve this other part of the under bust tightening, I need to close the bust dart, and to do that, I need to open the dart line like this. So take note of these little terms: dart line, dart legs. Yes, they are very important when it comes to pattern drafting. So in order to close it, you can see I'm closing the bust dart like this, and you can see the sides are equal because of the trulling that we did earlier on. So I'm just trying to open it a bit more to get to the bust point here, and I'll go ahead and close this up and bring in my tape to close this up like this. After closing the bust dart with the paper tape, I can go ahead and proceed with the second connecting. So I'll go ahead and connect this point to this second line that I came down with. That is the 1 inch that I came down with, that I connected back to the bust point. So let's just call it the second line from the armhole. So I'll go ahead and connect this under bust tightening to the second line. So at this point, we are almost done. Then there's one thing left. Please take note that this part is going to be cut out. That is, this space here that I'm marking out is going to be cut out. Now, if we cut this out, the armhole is going to become shorter. Yes, if we tend to cut this out, this part out, the armhole is going to be shorter. It will become shorter. So to prove that to you, I'll go ahead and measure the armhole we have right now. So I'll bring in my tape. You can also try this as well. I'll bring in my tape and I'll go ahead and measure like this, as you can see. And what I have here, I have 9.75 here. Now, let's imagine this part is being cut out. So I'm just going to close it like this. I'm going to close this just to, illustrate. We are just doing some imagination here that this part is being cut out. Now, if you're very observant, you'll take note of the fact that these armholes are no longer equal. The armhole is no longer equal. You get? Now, that aside, let's just first of all go ahead and measure this new armhole that we are having. So I'm doing the remeasurement now, and here I have 9.5 inches. So you can see what I'm trying to say. So the armhole is now shorter by about 0.25 inch or thereabout. And if we tend to use this without any readjustment to the armhole, it's going to be the armhole is going to be tighter on the person, and it's going to not be that comfortable on the person. So to avoid that, we have to readjust the armhole by coming down on the side by either 0.5 or 0.75 inches. So you come down from the side of the armhole by 0.5 or 0.75 inches. So for me, I'll make use of the 0.5 inches from the armhole like this, from the side of the armhole like this. So if you're making this outfit for a young girl, you can make use of 0.5, but if you're making it for an advanced lady, those advanced lady, make use of 0.75. So right now I'll go ahead and connect the 0.5 back to this main armhole like this. So doing this, I have corrected two things. I have readjusted the armhole to the actual armhole measurement, and I have also corrected this part of where the armhole are not equal. Right now the armhole is now equal with this little readjustment that I have just done. So to prove that to you, I'll go ahead and measure this new armhole like this, as you can see, which I used the red pen to illustrate. So you can see I ended up with a 9.75, which was the actual armhole measurement. Also take note of this 0.25, that intake that happened on the chest line because of the princess or tightening that happened. So I just went ahead to extend that line to make it easier to know where to cut through. And for the 0.25 inches, that intake that happened on the chest line, I put it back here beside the new armhole, and I'll connect this to the new armhole like this, and also to the side. Although replacing back this 0.25, that intake that happened on the chest line, is not important, it's not relevant, but I just want to show you this step as well. I don't do this all the time. Then I just want to show you all the steps involved in this particular method of drafting a princess that, because I've done other method of drafting out a princess that. So tell me which one you find easier to do. I'll drop the link of all the method on the description box as well. So now drafting out the princess that bustier is done and dusted. So looking at the style inspiration, you can see that it has this little flare at the sides. So to achieve that, you have to come out by 1 inch on the blouse length line like this, and then you connect the 1 inch back to the blouse length line like so, and you connect this to the waistline like this. This is just to achieve that little flare at the side. So 1 inch is enough for that little flare. Yes, it's more of like a little A-shaped flare. So next, take note of the measurements from your waist line to the blouse length line. So what I have here is 6.5. So this will be needed for the back pattern when drafting out the back pattern. So what I have here is 6.5. So go ahead and write what you have from the waist to the blouse length. And as you can see from the inspiration, the flare is also curved. So to achieve that, go up by 1.5 inch from the blouse length line on the side, and then you curve it back to the blouse length line using the curved side of your rule like this to achieve a nice curve, that nice curve. So I'll connect the 1.5 inch like this back to the blouse length line. So at this point, the whole pattern is ready for this blouse. So another thing you can take note of is, remember the neckline. So go ahead and also draft your desired neckline. So for this, I just decided to make use of 3.5 inch for the neck depth. So you can decide if you want a V-neck, if you want an asymmetric neckline, whichever neckline you want, just go ahead and draft it out and do you. So guys, this is me cutting it out. So watch how this is being cut out, so you also do not make any mistake when cutting out. And hooray! The front pattern of the blouse has been cut out. So when you get to sew the princess that together like this, you can see the sides are equal. Yes, the side will end up being equal. So on this dart, when cutting out, you leave half an inch allowance when cutting out on your fabric, half an inch allowance on for the dart journey. Then at the aim you leave 1 inch for the aiming. Then on the armhole you leave half an inch, shoulder half an inch, neckline half an inch allowance, armhole here half an inch allowance. Yeah, so that is it. Note this part is the center front, so it's going to be on fold. Then it's time to cut out the back pattern, so we'll also go ahead and draft out the basic bodice for the back pattern. Yeah, so when drafting out the back pattern, you also go ahead and start marking 1 inch from the starting of your paper, just to get the top line or the starting line. So 1 inch down from the starting of the paper, and you go ahead and connect this to get a straight line like this. After doing this, you also go ahead and divide your shoulder measurement by 2 and mark it out. So for these I have 8 inches, and then you go ahead and mark your armhole depth. So the armhole depth I'm working with is 8.3 inches, and that is what I also marked out for the front, and I showed you how to get it. Then I'll connect this armhole depth back to the shoulder measurement, and then I'll go ahead and divide my round bust measurement by 4 and mark it out at this point as well. And I'll go ahead and bring in my rule and connect this to get a straight line down like this. So this is the chest line, which in my previous video you should already know. Now for the neck width of the front and of the back pattern has to be the same, so I'm marking 3.41 here. And for the neck depth for back pattern, 1 inch is the standard neck depth for back pattern. You can alter it if you want a different form of neckline for your back pattern. It all depends on you, but for a standard normal regular neckline for the back, it's 1 inch for the neck depth. Now I'll go ahead and come down by 1 inch from the shoulder and connect this 1 inch to the neck width like this to get the shoulder slant or the shoulder slope. Next, to get the armhole curve for the back, go ahead and find the midpoint from the shoulder slope to the armhole depth by either dividing what you get by 2 or folding your tape over like this to get the midpoint and mark it out. Then come in from the midpoint by 0.5 inches. So you connect these 3 points together. So you can see the little difference. For the front pattern, for the front armhole curve, you go in by 0.75. For the back, you go in by 0.5 inches. So that is just the difference when it comes to drafting out the armhole curve for the front and for the back. So now I've connected these 3 points to get the armhole curve. Next is to mark out the back waist length. To get your back waist length, you have to measure from the nape of the neck to the deepest part of the back. So that's just it, of the back of the client. So what I have here is 14 inches that I'm marking out. So go ahead and take your measurements and also mark out your the back waist length. And I brought in my rule to connect the dots to get a straight line. So this is the back waist length, that is the waistline for the back pattern precisely. Next, I'll go ahead and mark out the hip line. So I'll go ahead and mark 8 inches from the waistline, from the back waistline like this, to get the hip line or the hip depth. So that is what I am marking out. So this is just me drafting the basic bodice first for the back pattern before adding little tweaks here and there to get the pattern to create the blouse. So now it's time to do the back tightening. So to do that, I'm just going to do the 50% back tightening, and to achieve that I'm going to come in by 0.75 on the back waistline like this, and I'll connect this to the neck depth like this. So I'll connect the 0.75 that I came with on the waistline to the neck line, to the neck depth like this, and I'll also connect it to the hip line like this. Next step is to mark out the dart line. So since I now have a new center back, if I'm to follow marking out the normal 4 inch for my bust span, I'm going to have a slanted bent dart line, and I do not want that. So to avoid that, I'm just going to add the back tightening that I did to the 4 inches for the bust span, the dart line, and mark it out on the chest line, the waistline, and hip line. So 4 plus 0.75 gives me 4.75. So that is what I've marked out on the chest, waist, and hip line, and I've connected these 3 points to get a straight line. I'll also go ahead and come in and out by half an inch on both sides of the dart line on the back waistline, and I'll go ahead and connect this to the chest line like this, as you can see. And also don't forget to always come up by 2 inches from the hip line like so, and connect to the dart legs like this on the waistline like so. So this is the normal regular dart line for the back pattern. So now it's time to mark out the round bodice measurement after dividing by 4. So remember, this is the new center back. So after dividing by 4, I will add the 1 inch for the dart intake. So here I have 9.6 inches, and then I'll connect this to the chest line like this. And for the hip, you also divide by 4 and mark it out like this, and you connect to the waistline. Whatever part you got lost or confused, just drop your question on the comment section, and I'll try as much as possible to respond to you. And this is the basic back pattern. Now, in order to draft out the pattern for the blouse, you can either decide to just leave your darts like this, if you want it like this, and then create the flare at the side, or you can go ahead and also draft out a princess dart on your back pattern. So for me, I'll be drafting out the princess dart on the back pattern. So from any point of your armhole, go ahead and curve it to the chest line to meet up with the dart on the chest line like this. So it's as simple as that. So this is the princess dart for the back pattern. Now it's time to mark out the blouse length line. So go ahead and mark out what you measured on your front pattern, that is from the front waist length to the blouse length, and mark it out here on your back pattern like this. So for me, I had 6.5, and I'm marking out 6.5 from the back waistline like this. And I'll go ahead and bring in my rule to connect the dots to get a straight line like this, as you can see. Now to get that flare shape, I'll go ahead and also come out with a 1 inch. Same thing I did for the front. I'll come out with 1 inch like this and connect this back to the blouse length line like so. And I'll also go ahead and connect this to the waistline like this. If you enjoyed this video, and if this video was helpful to you, and you're yet to hit the subscribe button, like, guy, what are you waiting for? Please hit the subscribe button and also give this video a thumbs up. Next, to get the curve on the flare, you just go ahead and come up with 1.5 inch on the side from the blouse length line. Same thing that was done on the side as well for the front pattern. And you go ahead and curve this 1.5 back to the blouse length. Now, in case you do not have a curve rule for all of these curving and all of that, you can actually use your hands to draw out the curve. Just make sure you get a perfect curve. So at this point, the back pattern for this blouse is ready. So it's time to cut this out. So please watch carefully how this was cut out, so you know where to cut and where not to cut. So I'll go ahead and do the cutting. So I've cut out the blouse length and the back tightening, the neckline, the armhole, and the darts as well. So for the allowances, you leave 1 inch for the aiming allowance, 1 inch for the zipper allowance, because this is where the zip would be, half an inch for the neckline, half an inch on the shoulder, half an inch on the armholes, and half an inch for the darts joining. Yeah. And for the side seam, you can leave 1 inch or 1.5 inch. I will advise 1.5 inch for the side seam. And these are the patterns that was drafted out, that we've drafted out. That is the back and the front pattern. And I'll go ahead and use these patterns to cut out the Ankara, which is the main fabric, and also cut out the door face. The door face is serving as the lining. So I'll go ahead and cut it out, leaving the required allowance. And also, after cutting them out, I would iron in the stay. Yes, so this is 2 yards of stay that I used for this. So that is it. So I'll go ahead and do that and show you guys. So guys, this is it. Yeah, so for the allowance, you can see they have an inch, 1 inch for the center back, 1 inch for the aiming, half an inch for the dart joining, half an inch for the armhole. You can see 1 inch here, 1 inch, 1.5 inch for the side seam, half an inch for the armhole. So this is the back pattern. And also you can see that, you know, I cut out the doll face, the lining and the main fabric exactly the same. So always make sure you just create a little cut, a very little cut on those important parts, like, you know, the waistline, the aiming allowance, just to, you know, make stitching easier for you, so you would know where the waistline is and the aiming allowance is, so that when you are sewing it, you are on point. You get. So you can see that I also ironed in the stay on both the lining and the main fabric. So now you can see the allowances I also left here, which is the required allowance that I indicated. And you can see that this is the center front. It was unfold, there is no cutting. So when you're cutting out this fabric and the lining, you have to make sure your fabric is on fold. So that is it, guys. So you can see the stay is also ironed on the lining, that is on the doll face and on the main fabric. Now for the front pattern, you need to have a breast pad, which is a wadding, to give the bustier the structure, and so that your clients can be able to wear the blouse without putting on the bra. So to cut out the breast pad or wadding, all you have to do is to come up by 1 inch from the chest line like this, and then I'll just bring in my rule to connect these dots to get a straight line like so. So it's going to stop at this under bust, and I'll cut it out like this, as you can see. And for the breast part, I'll be on the other side. All you have to do is to bring in your tape and mark 4 inch or 5 inch. For a bigger bust, just go in by 5 inch, and for a smaller bust, 4 inches, okay, and mark it out on the side here. And then just go ahead and curve that 5 inch or 4 inch back to the under bust line like this. So your padding, wadding or breast pad normally stops at the under bust, and then don't forget to go up from your chest line by 1 inch like this. So when making use of a wadding, I advise you make use of the medium size wadding. Yeah, the medium size wadding. I don't go and get a wadding that is strong like stone. You should still have that little softness, you know, when your client puts it on without a bra, their breasts feel comfortable inside. So that's just it. So now this is the breast pad or wadding I'm talking about. You can see how soft it is, and it is the medium sized, not the normal size or the thicker size. It's just between the thicker and the medium size. So go ahead and fold your wadding like this, and make sure you had half an inch on the darts for the dart joining, and then you go ahead and cut like this, as you can see. So the only half an inch will be added the darts for the darts joining, and that is it. The remaining part, you just cut it like that, and make sure never to cut open the center front, except in scenarios or cases where you want to put zip on the center front. So guys, this video was becoming way longer than expected, and your baby girl was also a bit tired, so I just had to, you know, create another video for the sewing of this blouse. So I'll make sure I drop the video to the sewing of this blouse on or before tomorrow, and once I do, I'll drop the link to the sewing of this blouse on the description box or pin it on the comment section, so you go ahead and watch it. So guys, see you on the next video, on my next video. Love you guys. Ciao.